Welcome, everybody. Welcome to a beautiful topic: how to heal and integrate your sexuality. What are the steps that you need to undergo if you are suffering from emotional trauma or sexual abuse or sexual trauma that is preventing you from experiencing pleasure and joy in your life? Or you're suffering from a big disconnect in relationship to your sexual energy. You don't know how to fully connect with your sexual fire and how to awaken the power of your sexuality. Hi, and welcome to the Feminine Podcast, your weekly source of feminine guidance and inspiration. I'm Wana Stojanovic, founder of The Feminine, transformational coach, and a rite of passage facilitator. Here at The Feminine Podcast, we view every woman's life as a canvas, each stroke filled with stories that shape and empower you. Join me in this unique journey as we explore the rich tapestry of emotions, passions, and profound questions that we encounter on the feminine path. This isn't just a podcast. It is a sacred space where your voice matters, where healing and inspiration unite. Where a community of curious, powerful, and passionate women come together to trailblaze what it means to be a woman in today's world. Are you ready to embrace a feminine embodied life? Look no further. You've found your sanctuary. Welcome to this amazing topic that I think is very important. It's not enough talked, it's not enough understood. And when we come to realize that 80+% of women do not have power or self-expression in their sexual energy and in their sexuality, in their sexual life, that most women have never experienced orgasm in their life, maybe their whole life or very late in life, you come to realize how important this conversation is. And today I want to explore how you really engage with your sexual energy so that you move from healing to fully embodying a thriving sexual identity and explore and integrate all that is possible in sexuality. And of course, we want to talk also about the most important archetype that enables us to make this possible for us. And that archetype is the wild woman. And my purpose with this podcast is to really give you a perspective on the difference between the immature energies and the mature energies of the feminine. What's the difference in sexuality when you are trapped at the level of the wounded inner girl, suppressed adolescent, and when you are freed up as a wild woman? Allowing yourself, giving yourself permission to fully embody all that's possible for you as a woman in a sexual way. Where does this journey begin? Well, fun enough, it doesn't begin with techniques. It doesn't begin with a lover. It doesn't begin with learning more about who you are, although all of these things are very important. But the angle I want to take on today's episode is the difference between being a young girl or an immature woman, not in an invalidating sense of the way, but like not fully ripe, and a mature woman. What's the gap or what's the difference? How can we know there's more for us available in our sensual sexual fire? Well, when we are trapped on a psychological level without being aware most of the times, at the level of the child and the adolescent, what we need to understand is that we're also trapped to some sort of degree to a level of our sexuality that is not fully activated. So what we experience in our sexual life, and we are adult women, we have sex, we have lovers, we have relationships, we have sexual relationships, we read the Kama Sutra, we do all the techniques, and we can consider we're having a very powerful sexual life. I considered having a very powerful sexual life my whole life before entering this world and realizing I didn't have anything. Not because I didn't educate myself sexually or I didn't have the right partners, but because I wasn't integrated. I wasn't freed up. I didn't met my sexual energy. I didn't know what that was and how to engage with it. And as a sign, I was dissociated from my body. I had performance sex, meaning all the ingredients were there, but I didn't really deeply felt fulfilled sexually. And one of the signs of my immature sexuality was this experience of craving more passion and not having it, no matter the lover, craving more intimacy and not having it. And of course, blaming men, thinking men are to blame, but it wasn't men are to blame. It was me who, on a psychological level, couldn't be with my own sexual fire and Shakti's sexual fire. Why? Because it was too much and too intense. And at the first level, because of trauma, your psyche is not ready for that intensity. And it doesn't matter what type of trauma you have experienced. It doesn't have to be sexual trauma. The intensity of trauma, in a negative sense of the way, hampers the ability of the psyche to be with the new, to be with chaotic, intense, paradoxical energies. So even if you grow up past your childhood trauma and you step into being an amazing woman who opens her mind, her body to sexuality, you still may not experience the full capacity for pleasure that's available to us as women because your traumas are keeping your psyche unhealed, immature context. So you can't access the sexual energy and its full depth and intensity and fire. That's why it can be very shocking for a woman to hear, why? I don't need a man to be sexually thriving. I need the sexual energy. What's that? So many women in the Western world think, being good in the bedroom is getting turned on by a smart man because sex happens in the brain. Sex doesn't happen in the brain. In the brain, there are sexual pleasure centers that are linked and connected to different parts of your body that are getting activated because that energy is moving into the body. And you're allowing it most of the times because you feel safe in that person's presence. But it's the safety that makes you relax, that enables the flow of energy to move, that connects with everything that's happening in your brain. It's a very Western type of thinking, but in the Eastern world, they have explored sexuality as energy. They have looked at the body in a holistic way. They have enabled themselves to explore pleasure as a full body experience. And then the body is instrumental in arriving to that experience because the energy gathers in the body. It doesn't gather in the mind. It starts with the womb and it can reach the mind in a full body orgasm, but the mind is not the first place. The body is, the womb is. And then it runs all over the body and moves into the body, the energy of orgasmic pleasure. When you are having a mind intellectual orgasm, you're more wired to produce happy hormones in the brain than actually allowing the sexual energy to take you to pleasure. When the sexual energy takes you to pleasure, it takes you out of the mind and out of the body most of the times. It's like a little death. It's the death of the ego. It's the death of the mind every single time. So that's a big counterintuitive knowledge than what we're used to, or wisdom. So the first layer to move forward on the path of an integrated healed sexuality is to look at your traumas and start working with your trauma and start healing your trauma by learning to connect with the inner girl, whether that it's in sexuality or your vitality, whatever that trauma creates a negative impact or a limiting impact in your life and in your body, you need to look at it also from the angle that any trauma that's not healed doesn't allow you to step into a new experience and doesn't allow you to explore something that for your brain, who is stuck in trauma, feels dangerous and too risky. Moving away from the mind, which feels a sense of power and a sense of control, into something out of control. Because when you are shifting from the mind into following the energy, you're moving from being in control, in your illusion of being in control, into surrendering control. And that can feel very risky and dangerous. I remember I was working with the sexual energy in one of the retreats and the trainings I've done, and we were exploring the flow of energy through our body, and we were supposed to really dance and play with the energy in our body in front of another sister, another woman. It was a safe environment, and if we would allow ourselves to feel pleasure, it would be amazing. That was the purpose of the practice, of the ritual. And I remember working and shaking and dancing and feeling the energy rising into me very strongly. Immediately after it rise, every single time, a couple of times I did it, I would just freeze and block. And I didn't know why. I was comfortable. I was comfortable with my sister. I was comfortable with everything I was doing, but I couldn't do it. And I didn't understand why until I started feeling terror. Fear, deep fear. And I realized my inner girl is totally out of her comfort zone. She feels this as totally threatening and dangerous. So I stopped and I started mothering her in that moment. I started embracing her, loving her, telling her it's safe, that she doesn't have to come with me in this exercise, that I can do it as a woman and she can play with the unicorns, like I say it often, that I'm her mother and I love her and this is a grown-up experience and she doesn't have to be part of it. She can play with the unicorns and let me do this, explore this. And it was the only way to actually move through my trauma, heal, connect, bond with my inner girl to a whole new level so that it can free me up to explore the sexual energy. So the very first step is to heal trauma. Because you are resisting to the intensity of the pain. You think you're resisting to the pain. Yes, you are resisting to the pain, but you're also resisting to any type of intensity. So when you shift the dynamic and you start engaging with positive energies or emotions, you're still afraid of the intensity. And your psyche literally shuts down. And it prevents you from feeling the emotions or the energies that can be available for you to feel positive this time. That's why one of the most important things in the feminine process is to discover and become able to master emotional fluidity, because it's not about negative and positive. It's about the intersection between them and the moving through them in a fluid motion. That's what allows the psyche to become ready to meet Shakti. The second step is to know your body and explore your body. Explore your territory, discover who you are. And most of us have never looked at ourselves in the mirror. We feel shame and guilt. We feel like we're ugly, or we have some sort of dysfunctional criticism towards ourselves. We haven't really looked at our body with neutral, sacred, loving presence. So the second step is to actually become comfortable in being sexually, physically, and emotionally naked. And looking at yourself, and stop looking at yourself with judgment, but actually look at yourself in the mirror and absorb, explore, discover who you are. That's a very important step towards a fully integrated sexuality, because you need to discover and look at yourself like an integrated person. Most of the times we think sexuality is somewhere downstairs, somewhere down, and we never look at our womb, and we never look at our pussy, and we never look at our yoni, and we never look at anything that's connected to our sexuality. And if we do, we have a lot of judgment to it. But no, the body is a vehicle. All the body is a vehicle. And it's not just the genitals. It's every single inch of your body being erotic and available to explore and experience this energy. It's like a sponge who takes on the energy and flows and dances with it. So a healed, integrated sexuality is something that enables you to experience everything, all of life, with your whole body. So now it's not the mind, it's not the genitals, it's the whole body. So counterintuitive to everything we've been taught in the Western world. But the body is actually here to feel the sexual energy rising and also create the space for your spirit to descend into the body. Those orgasmic experiences are activated through touch. It can be making love with yourself or making love with a lover, but they are activated through touch. But what is getting activated? It's the energy that's flowing through your body that actually meets your soul energy in that moment. And it is your spirit who comes into the body, gets washed by Shakti's energy, vibrates with that ecstatic energy, and you feel the rush of pleasure of an orgasmic cosmic level because you feel the intersection between the sexual energy and your spirit in the body. Now, the spirit doesn't come if you're fragmented in your psyche and in your understanding of your life and your body, of yourself. It's a too lower consciousness, and the body is not ready, the psyche is not ready, so then the spirit doesn't come. Can't descend. You need the spirit to descend into the body. That's why the second step of a healed and integrated sexuality is de-armoring. That's what it's called. What are you de-armoring? All the mechanisms of protection that have kept you away from looking at yourself. Now see how that looking at yourself in the mirror becomes relevant? And it's not about you looking just physically at yourself. It's about emotional and sexual vulnerability. That means you can look at yourself and see yourself deep down inside, looking at your whole body, at your whole self, actually looking and touching yourself with neutral, sacred, loving presence, which starts to cultivate, nurture, and stir up all the senses. And now you're vibrating. And now the body becomes a channel and a temple. Now the body starts cleansing itself of the trauma, of the emotional repression, of the negative limiting thoughts, the mind, and the negative limiting energies in the body. Now the body becomes more clean energetically to allow the flow of energy to move. From where? From down earth, from Shakti, the center of the earth, up to the crown, all over you, and from the spirit through the crown into the body and into the earth. As the spirit descends and Shakti rises, when they meet, full body orgasm. And you're out of your mind in that moment. You cannot be in your egotic mind. The energy is too intense. So you need to become ready to wash away with deep compassion the judgment and the disconnect and the betrayal in a way, without your even understanding you were doing that. The betrayal of you looking at your body and not seeing it as a temple. Looking at yourself and being afraid to see what you see. So many women are afraid to look at themselves and watch themselves and look at everything that they are and everything they're not. And pierce through that resistance and fear of, oh my God, I'm going to see something ugly, and actually understand how beautiful they are. That vulnerability starts with yourself, and then it progresses to your lover. Rare cases where the lover can be an instrumental in making it safe for you to look at yourself. Extremely rare. It can happen. The man is much more ready to be vulnerable and can create a safe container, a safe space. Most of the times, it's us moving there. That's the initiation of the adolescent. That's the stage where you're moving from suppressed, disconnected adolescent into sensuality and awakening your sensual sense of self by allowing vulnerability, allowing yourself to look at yourself in the mirror, allowing yourself to pierce through. Sure, in this stage, you can learn techniques, you can learn rituals, you can learn how the energy functions, you can clear your chakras, you can allow through dance the energy to move, you can process your emotions. You are connecting more and more with what makes you feel alive and vibrant. You're more out in nature, you're working with crystals, you're bathing naked in the sun or under the moonlight, you're making full moon ceremonies, you're tapping into this inner rhythm, sensual flow of being feminine. You're mystical, you're chanting, you're crying, you're allowing emotions to come through you. You can cry and laugh in 5 minutes, one after the other. You're giving yourself permission to flow. And you are becoming more and more flowing and fluid, open and warm. And this is moving from repressed adolescent energy on a psychological, energetical, emotional level into awakening your sensuality, which is phase number 2. And if you get this very good, if you get this right, you're now preparing for the mature, healed, integrated sexuality. I saw and I see in a lot of Tantra workshops how women come and they learn to orgasm because it's not that hard, actually. Although 85% of women never orgasm in their life, and they're not familiar with the information and the access and the process, but it actually is not that hard. But I see a lot of women going into Tantra workshops and learning how to touch themselves and what points to touch to have orgasm, and they do, but it's not integrated because their psyche hasn't fully matured. They have a disconnected type of orgasmic life where it's all about the energy, but the psyche somehow doesn't pick it up. It's like there's another parallel pattern that you create that's parallel to yourself and your psyche. You're still experiencing it. It's still you, but it's parallel. It's fragmented. It's because this piece needs to happen where you are embracing your adolescent and you are allowing her to move beyond shame, fear, and guilt into vulnerability. Loving her, making her feel safe to look at herself in the mirror and see all that she is and see her beauty. When this piece happens on a psychological level, then the energy can flow all the way. It's not fragmented. And you can have orgasms, but what you also have is a psyche that now welcomes the energy and is available to work with the energy. I had this experience because I wasn't ready to heal my adolescent because I didn't receive an initiation at this level. And I did all the trainings and I knew how to have orgasms. But the body never lies. The body knows how integrated or disintegrated you are. So I was having orgasms, but I never had a G-spot orgasm, and I never squirted. And I couldn't, no matter the technique, the man, and how many Tantra initiations I had and how much I would orgasm. I could even hold the space for other women to step into that. But my G-spot never opened. And in the end, I thought it's never going to open. That's it. And then I became a mother, and because I was biologically more mature and psychologically more mature through giving birth to my daughter, this huge piece of my trauma on an adolescent level started resurfacing because I was psychologically and psychically now ready to look at it, at the depth and the intensity of my adolescent trauma. And I started working with my adolescent, and I started holding space for her like a mother. And I started becoming her mother. And I started deeply feeling into her unique energy, looking at myself in the mirror with no fear. Actually, even more than that, I was embracing her and saying, I'm holding you by the hand. I want you to look in the mirror, my inner adolescent, because I'm already looking and I love what I see. And what I see is an amazing young woman who is really special and beautiful and unique. And I want you to open your eyes and look at yourself. So I was guiding Maya in this part of me that was always suppressed, always afraid of her beauty, always afraid of her intensity and her shyness because it was dangerous in her childhood to show up in her full power. And I started giving her space to show up, to express, to occupy her own energy, her own spot within me, and look at herself in the mirror and explore her vulnerabilities. I started seeing her unique energy and her unique gifts and who she is and what she wants. And my G spot opened. And I'm a Tantra facilitator for many years. My G spot never opened. And I have trained with amazing women and men. It wasn't the technique. My psyche just wasn't ready. And my trauma, emotional trauma, which was impacting my sexuality because it happened around my sexual identity emerging in adolescence, was shutting me down. And until you do this piece with psychologically becoming ready to step into that level of emotion and that level of capacity of understanding, which can only happen when you are mothering that fragment soul through the adolescent or through the child. The mothering process takes you to the capacity. It's not something mental or theoretical. You can't access it until you actually do the work. That's why the work I'm doing is fascinating, because it gives you access to a level of psychological and psychic maturity, and everything follows after that. So when I say it's not about the technique, I'm saying you can learn to orgasm and you're still not integrated and you're still not fully opened to the depth of the pleasure that's available, because your psyche may not be ready, because your psyche is in trauma. There's a deep link between our psyche and the different physical points, physical and energetic points within the womb. And what happens in different sexual techniques and healing processes is that you move through an internal massage, like a yoni massage, with the healing hand of a healer, man or woman, and starts massaging these energetic points within the womb internally to kind of like activate a fire there, activate the sexual fire there. And they may open or they may not. It's a very complex process in healing and integrating your sexuality. It's not something very light or simple. But if, because of trauma and the lack of integration of that soul fragment, you may press your yoni however you want 1,000 times and it doesn't open. So there's a link between those gates of pleasure that are locked within your womb and your psyche. Because otherwise, how can you open to full skirting and your G-spot orgasming all the time, naturally, immediately, after 36 years of not doing that with all the techniques possible? That's because integrating my adolescent and understanding who she is healed the trauma. The trauma was out, the gate opened. The trauma was like a dirt clogging in the channel, clogging in the lake, clogging in the waters. So it comes back to the intensity of emotions. And the only thing I had to do was just create enough room and make it safe for my adolescent to show up and to see her for what she is, and to acknowledge her and to love her and to honor her and to make room for her and to be there for her so she feels safe to show up. That's it. And then you're ready to step into the wild woman, which is a woman who is now learning that her sexual fire serves a sacred purpose. It is about pleasure. It's also about living life intensely. It's also about deeply plugging into you and to life and feeling that intense flow, that sacredness moving through your veins. It's about claiming your pleasure, being free in it, loving it, exploring it, owning it. It's about your independence. It's about your creativity. It's about saying yes to what you want, when you want it, how you want it. It's about giving yourself permission to follow your gut, to own your power, to understand there's nothing you have to compromise to be yourself. And yes, it does come with making love and open sexually with yourself, with a lover, with multiple lovers, that's instrumental. But it's the becoming that you have access through all of that blossoming and flowering. Techniques will never get you there because it's not about a technique. And you can use all the techniques, and it's amazing to learn about them and have them. I'm not against techniques. I love them. It's okay. But that's not the point. The point is the blossoming of this fully integrated, able, and free woman who has gone through her repressed aspects of self. She has released them. She has walked through the pain, and she's now able and free to own who she is and actually have a sense of deep acknowledgement and joy and celebration when she looks at herself. She's proud. She loves who she sees. And it's beyond how she looks. It's this woman who has given herself permission, even if it was dangerous and inappropriate, to stop compromising on herself and really enjoy and explore herself fully. And she discovered so many beautiful things about herself in the process. So she's now ready to open to all of life and embrace it. Move her body, feel her body, say yes to orgasm, say yes to pleasure, say no to anything that doesn't feel right to her. To have that confidence, that magnetism to herself, and to be free, to enjoy life, to enjoy herself, to enjoy her body, to enjoy another man's body, to enjoy everything she wants to enjoy, and to never feel she has to compromise to be who she truly is. Even going beyond that, realizing that she actually starts winning everything she deserves the moment she stops compromising. So moving out of that fear into the self-expression of, I am who I am, and I'm loving it, and I'm enjoying it, and I'm celebrating it, and I'm attracting everything that I need and deserve because I am who I am, and I'm celebrating myself. That's what you gain once you move through all of these steps. Now, the lesson of the wild woman, very different, is learning this one, to own who you are, own your fire, own your sexuality, stop compromising, stepping into your truth, claim it, enjoy it, have orgasms, cry, be a woman who has been everything, done everything, loves everything. She's like open with life. And in an initiatory way, the wild woman brings this deep understanding that our sexual energy and its purpose are very sacred. It's not even about orgasm, or orgasm is the beginning. It's about what you do with that energy and how you harness it and nurture it and use it purposefully, and how you stop fooling around and use it in the wrong way because it's a gift from Goddess. And it's like a diamond. You don't throw the diamond to the pigs, right? But when I talk about pigs, I'm not talking about men now. I'm talking about all the ways in which you don't purposefully use it correctly. It can be a relationship with men, compromising on who you feel, on what you feel and who you are, or mothering them instead of owning and claiming the relationship through the lenses of the wild woman. But it can also be in other areas like career or your relationship with yourself, or the ways in which you don't give yourself permission to express all that you are. It's much more complex than relationship to men. When you learn that you can be a free, open channel for the energy of ecstasy to move through you, which is literally Shakti, the feminine energy, and that she's this amazing, multidimensional goddess that holds existence in place, basically. She's much more than this ecstatic energy. Of course, for us, in an uninitiated life, it's just huge to get to the point where we can have orgasm, right? Like, it's the ultimate goal, but it's not the ultimate goal. It's just the beginning. When you allow the energy to move at that level of frequency, which is ecstatic, you discover you can heal, you discover you can manifest, you discover you can evolve spiritually, you can create. And that's your highest purpose, to express the goddess in you and to make that manifest. So you're learning to allow it to rise up through you and express itself, the feminine energy, the goddess energy, through you. And you are holding this sacred relationship with it. And in that process, she heals you, she awakens you, she takes you to the next level. She challenges you to play big and bigger and much more bigger, and so on and so forth. All right. These are the 3 steps or phases of the process of healing and integrating our sexuality. So, what are the questions for today? My body shows me it has orgasm by skirting and shaking and newly climaxing. I only know when I'm skirting and gushing that I'm having multiple orgasms. How can I connect my mind to what my body is experiencing? See? Trauma. It's just exactly what we've been talking about. It's such a powerful question. She's a participant in the rite of passage of the mature feminine. But yes, it's because your psyche is not ready for that energy. Your trauma is disconnecting mind and body. Your body is open, which can happen. You can have orgasms and be fully sexually fertile, open, let's say, blossoming. That's why I said healing and integrating sexuality. That's a sign of your sexuality not being integrated. Your mind is somewhere else while your body is orgasming and skirting and squashing and everything. It's definitely not an integrated experience, right? Because your mind is somewhere else. Where is your mind? Well, your mind is stuck in trauma. So now you have to connect when you are exploring sexual energy and your sexuality with your inner girl or your inner adolescent and bring her here in your heart. Ask for her or that part of you that's in pain or disconnected to come through into the heart. And the first step is to hold this open question or open intention. How can I make it safe for the part of me that drifts away, disconnects when I'm having sex, to come back? I want to make it safe for this part of me to come back. And if you are sitting with that intention for a while and you're doing all the practices in the space of that intention, then eventually what will happen is something very interesting. As this part starts to feel safer to come in, your body's going to react differently. And you may undergo a time of no sexual energy, no orgasm. I remember when I was working with my adolescent, and it actually happened a couple of years back, but recently, I couldn't be touched by men anymore unless I fully loved it. Because before integrating my adolescent and healing my trauma on an adolescent level, I could dissociate and have a full sexual intercourse with a man and even have orgasms triggered by them, the men, or by myself in their space, but in a parallel space. It was still me and I was still doing it, but it was somehow parallel towards all of me. I hope I'm clear. I don't have to do that anymore. I'm not fragmented anymore. I'm not split in my psyche, because it was actually this part was fragmented who couldn't connect with the sexual energy of the let's say woman, because I was orgasming like at the level of the woman, but I wasn't integrated. My adolescent wasn't getting the woman. So when I started welcoming my adolescent, what happened is my body was now experiencing her. And she was kind of like telling me, I don't feel safe, I don't want this, I don't like this, I need something else. So then I took on this radical principle that we use in healing sexuality, which is I allow only what my body wants. That's very risky for women when they hear that. It's like, oh, so if I say yes to a kiss and nothing more than a kiss, then my boyfriend or my lover or my husband is going to go sleep with another woman. But that's when you actually give yourself permission to go through the healing process and you can engage with your partner and say, okay, listen, I'm moving through this layer of trauma. I want your support. I want you to be here with me in that process, and I will move this way and this way and this way. And it was a long time of just honoring only what I felt. And most of the times I didn't feel stuff, or I would stop very early on because it wasn't the right energy, the right dynamic for me. but it was what my adolescent was teaching me, and I was moving with her. I was aligning more with her and moving with her and through her. And I was making it safe for her to come in, and moving with her and aligning my body to her would help me integrate. And once she and I fully bonded and I integrated her on a psychological level, first of all, she brought so many gifts. And second of all, then I started integrating and healing, and I'm in a different place right now. I can be touched in many ways now. I can, like she will heal beyond her suppressed status at the beginning of the process, you and her. So I would call in that part of my soul that dissociates, and it can be connected to sexuality or not. Fascinating, right? How can I enjoy and embrace my sexuality and sex? I would start with looking at myself in the mirror. Really, I would start with getting naked slowly. It doesn't have to be aggressive. You can have small steps with it. And I would look at myself in the mirror and I would explore my body, and I would neutrally, sacredly, lovingly touch my body. There's a study that has been done with kids that were touched by their mothers. It wasn't a sexual touch, and they were massaged and they were kissed from head to toe. Like they would have physical contact throughout the whole body and the whole skin, their whole childhood. It was the culture they were born into. And later on, they were perfectly integrated and healed on a sexual level. Their sexuality was fully integrated, because they were accustomed to touch and massages, and that was a way of welcoming the spirit into the body. It was a way of melting tension and self-protection mechanisms in the body, walls in the body that would rise, and it would enable the body to be this vehicle, this empty space for the soul to descend. So enjoying and embracing your sexuality and sex means you starting feeling safe, being sexually and emotionally vulnerable. And it starts with you looking at yourself in the mirror and learning to touch your wholeness. And doing it pretty much on a regular basis, picking up like a 21-day ritual of loving yourself, looking in the mirror, massaging yourself. It can move into making love with yourself. It can move into making love with your partner if you feel into it. You're exploring, right? You're enjoying, you are discovering all that you are, and you're allowing the flow of energy to take you there, to help you, to make you explore many things that you didn't know were possible. Your creativity is going to emerge through learning to dance with your sexual sacred fire. And I have another question here, and I want to answer this question because it's linked. So many women ask me about perimenopause, menopause. I have so many questions about that. One of the things, I'm not an expert in perimenopause. I'm not also in that stage of life where I can have a physical understanding or personal understanding of all these changes. I can understand how your body changes and how hormones changes, because I'm now turning 40. And I can feel those changes coming up, not in the sense of perimenopause, but like how these things take a different shape and form as you progress, let's call it this way. But what I know and have seen with the beautiful amount of women 50 plus who have participated in the rite of passage of the mature feminine is that the sexual energy and the feminine practices regulate your hormones, and they regulate yourself and your psyche and your body and your mind and emotions. So the feminine energy tends to heal on a holistic, deep level, everything in your body. It tends to support this natural process of inner balance. When the psyche and the body are moving into this space of balance, then they start healing. So basically, you activate and you use the feminine practices to bring forth life into the body, and life heals. So you start regulating yourself. you start moving into balance. You start moving and opening into balance. And you learn through the feminine practices and through the feminine energy how to continuously bring yourself to balance. And what's funny enough is that as you are progressively nurturing yourself through the feminine practices, your body becomes more alive, more tuned in, more sensitive, more awakened, and it teaches you what you need in every single moment. And you're intuitively, wisely guided by your body's amazing intelligence into full balance, full healthiness, full integration, full evolution. It's truly beautiful because you are allowing this intelligent feminine space and energy within you to guide you from within. It's not a mental experience, it's from within. So, healing and integrating your sexuality requires this amazing, beautiful complex of healing the wounded inner child, allowing the adolescent to birth her integrated sensuality, so that you are psychically and psychologically ready to step into the mature, wild woman. The mature woman who is giving herself permission to own her wildness full on. And as you are moving through these stages and phases of your healing on a psychological, psychic level, you're using the feminine energy, and she becomes instrumental in guiding you every single step of the way, preparing you to be with intensity, to be with energy, to be with emotions, to know all that you are, to discover beyond limitations and mindsets that are old and limited, how amazingly powerful and beautiful and open life can be. I hope you have enjoyed today's episode, and I can't wait to connect to you on our next one. Let's have an amazing, thriving sexuality, because it is totally possible. See you soon. Thank you for tuning in to today's episode of the Feminine Podcast. Next week, we'll dive into another engaging topic chosen by you, our listeners. Have a question or a story to share? Check the description box below and send it our way. And before you go, hit the subscribe button so you won't miss out on our next episode. Follow us, leave us a comment, and make sure you share this with the women in your life. Remember, every episode is a step closer to discovering your feminine potential and how you can create a life that you truly love. Catch you next week.